All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going exploring something pretty wild,
Yeah.
the world of fractals
Yeah.
and how they might actually connect to how we think, human cognition.
That's right.
We're going to be looking at some excerpts from this research paper. It's
Ah.
called Fractals, Recursion, and Cognition, Self-Similarity in Natural Systems. So, yeah, get ready. It's going to be it's a fascinating one.
Buckle up.
Yeah. So, okay, let's just start with, what is a fractal? We've all seen them, right? Like
Yeah.
branching of a tree or snowflakes,
Coastlines.
coastlines, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're like these self-replicating structures, like the same
Right.
pattern, just repeats, but at different scales. But this paper's saying, like, it's not just, pretty shapes in nature. Like, this might be like a fundamental
Yeah.
principle of how complex systems organize themselves. And that includes, like, our brains.
Yeah, like the idea is that self-similarity across different scales, this fractal idea, might be the way that nature kind of figures out how to build complexity. Like if you think about the human brain, right?
Yeah.
Billions of neurons. Like how the heck does that thing work?
Right.
Well, maybe it's fractals all the way down. Maybe that's the key to like understanding how it processes information and does everything it does.
So it's like not just that the brain kind of looks like a fractal.
Yeah.
This paper is suggesting our thoughts themselves might have like a fractal structure, right?
Right.
Talks about thoughts evolving recursively. So they kind of start simple and then just keep getting more and more complex. Kind of like, I guess, like a tree growing more branches over time.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Like, you take a really complex idea like justice,
Hmm.
and if you break it down, what is justice? Well, it's fairness, it's equality, it's the law, right?
Right.
And then you break down each of those. What is fairness? What is equality? And it just keeps branching and branching and branching.
Yeah.
And there was this one study that they highlight in the paper where they were actually uh, looking at people's brain activity while they were solving problems.
Oh,
And they
okay.
found, yeah, they found that the brain activity itself showed fractal patterns.
Wow.
So it's like maybe there's a direct connection between the way our brains are structured
Uh-huh.
and the way we think.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier recursion.
Hmm.
You were talking about how it's like a loop, right?
Yeah.
Can you break that down a little more? What does that even mean? And how does that like looping process, how does that relate to how we learn and make decisions?
Okay, so imagine you're building a tower with blocks, right?
Okay.
You start with one block, and then you put another block on top of it,
Yeah.
and another block, and another block. Each time, you're building on what you already have. And that's kind of like recursion. It's this idea of a process that repeats itself, but each time, it uses the results of the previous step to create something new. And the paper argues that our brains might actually use this to make predictions. Like we make
Yeah.
an initial guess about something, and then we
Right.
get new information, and we kind of loop back, and we refine our understanding based on that new information.
So every time we learn something new, we're essentially like
Yeah.
adding a new block to that tower
Totally.
and building on top of what we already know.
Yeah.
This makes me think about, you know, sometimes you're working on something, you're trying to be creative,
Yeah.
you get stuck,
Yeah.
right? And then maybe you take a break, you go do something else, and then suddenly the answer just pops into your head. It's like your brain was working on it in the background,
Right.
like recursively, like it was
Yeah.
just going through those loops, trying to refine.
Yeah, it's like your subconscious is chucking away at the problem, and
Yeah.
then boom, it hands you the solution.
That is wild.
I know. And the paper gets even wilder because they propose that this recursive, like fractal-like way of thinking might actually be a core part of what makes us intelligent, of what makes us human.
So essentially they're saying, like, maybe the key to intelligence is just
Yeah.
fractals all the way down.
Maybe. I mean, think about it. Artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the algorithms that AI uses are based on recursion.
Right.
So are we just really, really sophisticated computers, or is there something more to the way we think? Is there something more to, our messy, creative, sometimes totally irrational
Yeah.
thought processes?
That's a good question.
I mean, it's a question that philosophers and scientists have been arguing about for like ever.
Right.
And this research is saying maybe the answer is fractals. Maybe that's the key.
Okay, so to kind of wrap things up here, we've been talking about how fractals these like seemingly simple patterns that we see everywhere in nature,
Right.
could actually give us like a profound insight into how the human mind works, like its complexity and its power.
It's amazing, right?
It really is. Like to think that the branching of a tree or the shape of a snowflake could hold clues to how we learn,
Hmm.
how we create, how
Yeah.
we even become conscious.
Yeah.
But we are going to wrap up this deep dive here, but we're going to leave you with, I think, a pretty interesting question
Yeah.
to think about. If our thoughts, if they really are fractal in nature,
Yeah.
then what does that tell us? Like, what does that tell us about the potential of the human mind, but also maybe the limitations,
That's a good one. Yeah. What are the boundaries of what we can think and understand?
Yeah.
It all comes back to these fractal structures.
Yeah.
Something to ponder.
Something to ponder, yeah. All right, well, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See you later.